afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Connection Corner. I'm Barb Nangle, and I am the community manager of Known Co-working, and I'm really excited to be here today. In a minute, I'm going to welcome our guest, Tracy Allen. She's going to talk about social enterprises and social entrepreneurship. But before I introduce her, though, I do want to share a little bit about Known. It's a dynamic co working community to connect people across their fields of expertise, endeavors, and experiences. And although we started as a co working space in downtown New Haven and are still the only co working space in downtown New Haven, we moved our community to the virtual world once the pandemic hit. And we then moved turned into having three different shows, which I'll tell you about in a moment, one of which is this one. As a reminder, Known Co-working has hourly, daily, and monthly plans for dedicated desks and office spaces, as well as conference rooms and Zoom rooms available for rent. If you'd like to know more about the space, feel free to send me an email. I can be reached at barb@knowncoworking.com. You can also check us out on our website, nhvknown.com, or follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Known Co-working, and you can DM us there. I mentioned we moved our community online when the pandemic arrived, and as a result, we now have three virtual programs: Digital Media Sync, Connection Corner, and Pivot Talk. You can catch free replays of all of our episodes of these shows on our website under Known Live and Events. So the first show is Digital Media Sync. This is your window to the digital world. It airs on Tuesdays at 8:30 and is hosted by Julia Gambale, the social media maven of Agents of Branding. We also have Pivot Talk, which is a virtual stage for businesses to share and learn as they grow. And then this show, The Connection Corner, is a place for entrepreneurs, artists, creators, thinkers, dreamers, and community members to share who they are, what they do, who they serve, how and why. And that's just about every single week. If you or anyone you know would like to be a guest on any one of these shows, go ahead and shoot me an email. Again, it's barb@knowncoworking.com, and we can talk about that. Our purpose in the physical and virtual spaces is to make connections between people. And we want to help you get connected, inspired, and known. And then, speaking of getting known, we've got virtual networking every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. You can find us by going to our website, nhvknown.com. Click on events, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the icon for virtual networking. You click on that, it'll take you right into the virtual studio. I'm there every Monday, and I like to think of myself as a connector. I love to connect people to the people in organizations and resources, etc., that they need, and would love to meet you and learn more about what you're looking for and connect you to others. And you never know who's going to be there. Pardon me. So, all that said, I would like to now introduce Tracy. All right, Tracy, welcome to the Connection Corner.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome. I'm really glad to have you here. So, just to give folks a little bit of a background, I met Tracy because of Sammy Williams from Sam's Word, who is like, I think I'm a connector. That woman is a connector. Because Sammy is the program manager of Knownpreneurs, which is Knownpreneurs Growth Academy, which is the business training and support and mentorship for BIPOC entrepreneurs from the New Haven area. And Tracy is one of our instructors, which I'll let you tell a little bit more about that. But as a result of that, she came onto the virtual networking, and we were talking, and I was like, you need to talk to this person because they want to form a nonprofit and maybe they don't need to. And the more she and I were talking, I was like, we need to put you on the Connection Corner show so more and more people can hear what you have to say. So I'm going to stop there and let them hear what you have to say.
And I usually have a lot to say, so hopefully I can keep this conversation
Well,
going.
absolutely. And I will step in and ask questions.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Tracy V. Allen. I am the owner of TVA Consulting Group. I have been in the social impact industry for well over 20 years. I help social entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and businesses to develop systems and processes that allow them to build, grow, and fund their dream while impacting the community. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell, is help those people to make the impact that they need to make in the community. So a lot of people tend to ask me, well, let's talk about how I got connected with Known. Like Barb talked about, I knew Sammy. Sammy asked me to come and teach a few classes for their biopic program on government contracting, building capability statements, and doing great presentations. So I said yes, and we already did two of them, which was minority certifications, how to get them, and the strong points of having minority certifications from your state and federal government and some private companies. And then we did the capability statement, because that's how you market yourself as a company, whether or not you're looking for government or state contracts. And then the last one that I will do best sometime in April is how to give impressive presentations, right? So that's a little bit of how I am connected with Known, just kind of doing those biopic instructions. But when it comes to my business, I, like I said, started off as, first of all, I have a background in education. So I was an English language arts teacher for many years, right? So I did that for about 15 years. And while I was doing that, I started grant writing. People were like, you're a great writer. We need this grant written. Can you write this grant for us? I was like, I'm not a grant writer. I just can write, but I don't know anything about grant writing. But I went ahead, did some research, wrote the grant for my friend. She ended up getting the grant. It was $25,000 for a program, got the grant. People started hearing about it, and I started just kind of writing grants for people along the way. Of course, I know education is important, so I went ahead and got some certifications as a certified grant writer, and was doing that as like my side hustle. And then that turned into me helping people starting their nonprofits, and then working behind the scenes as a subcontractor to help them actually run systems and processes for generating revenue in their nonprofit organizations. Fast forward to 2012-13, I got really sick, had to leave my teaching job in order to take care of my health. And once I started getting better, I was out for about a year, a little over a year. Once I started getting better, I had to try to figure out, like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I had a lot of time to think and reflect and, commune with myself, because I wasn't working. I was almost bedridden for that period of time. And I was like, do I want to go back into education? I think I've paid my dues in that department. So let me think about something else. Now, even though I had that as my side hustle, I still wasn't, and I was still doing things even through that portion. It still didn't dawn on me that I could actually have my own business just exclusively, not having it as a side hustle, because we all like that security of having a paycheck every 2 weeks or every month or every week, whatever it is. And like I said, I was sick. So I was like, I need medical insurance, right? Not thinking forwardly. I'm like, okay, you can have medical insurance even if you don't have an employer, because then you're your own employer. But anyways, so one of my friends said to me, why don't you just go full time and do nonprofits? I was like, yeah, I've done it for many years. It's been about, at that point in time, it was probably about 13, 14 years that I had been doing nonprofit work in grant writing. So I was like, okay, let me try and start this business. And like with every other business, there were bumps in the road, right? Lots of bumps in the road. So some of those bumps was, one day I woke up and my car wasn't in my driveway because it got repossessed, right? I really haven't told people that story, but I was like, I'm 40 something years old. I've had car notes that was $700 a month. This car note is just barely 300, and my car is repossessed. I need to rethink my whole life. And so that propelled me, because sometimes when we leave our jobs and we decide to go full time into entrepreneurship, we don't take entrepreneurship serious enough. We don't realize that we need to be as disciplined in our craft as we were on our jobs. And that kind of propelled me into becoming extremely disciplined as an entrepreneur, and being able to, get up every day, do the work that's necessary to build a business. So luckily for me is that I did have some savings that I could, access pretty quickly, get my car back the next day. But some people are not in that situation. And basically, it was kind of like me just not managing my funds right, managing my time right. So I just got back down to basics and really started to focus on my time management. And I've always been really good with time management. Still am very good with time management. But at that point in time, I was kind of just playing around with, just not really doing what I needed to do. So, yeah. So, my business has undertaken some different steps along the way because as you build businesses, you tend to evolve, right? Things don't always stay the same. You are going to go through some evolutions. You're going to be able to niche down a little bit more as time goes along. So I started off just kind of exclusively really wanting to work with for-profit businesses because I had done a lot of that as well while I was doing nonprofits. And just kind of really wanting to work with for-profits. But I was like looking at the for-profit space and I was like, everybody's a business coach, right? And so where can I really fit in the grand scheme of things? And decided to niche myself into being just exclusively a nonprofit coach. So everybody got to know me as a nonprofit lady because I really branded myself down into that niche where everybody knew that that is what I did. And as time progressed, I kind of fell out of love with just exclusively working with nonprofits and really wanted to work with social enterprises exclusively, or almost exclusively. Because like I said, I had already been working with them, even though we didn't have a name for it back in the day, but every business that I put my hands on, I want to turn them into a business that actually helps other nonprofit organizations or help the community to thrive in some way. So I've always adapted the social enterprise model. But as it became more and more prevalent here in the United States instead of outside in Europe and Africa and stuff, I really wanted to work with that model because I found that a lot of nonprofit organizations or the founders of nonprofit organizations that I was getting in contact with really wanted to own their business. They really wanted to be able to leave a legacy for the people that they love, right? They wanted to be able to pass this business down. They wanted to make certain decisions and do certain things that you cannot do in a nonprofit organization. So I just kind of started to turn people not away from nonprofits, but into the lane of still serving the community, still impacting the community, but doing that through social enterprises. So that brings us to our talk today. What are social enterprises and is it the right fit for you? And how can you get involved in it? Can you turn your business into a social enterprise? I think we're going to talk a little bit about some of those things today. So a social enterprise is a for-profit business that has a social arm, meaning that you have your for-profit, you're an LLC, you're a sole proprietor, you're an S corp, or a nonprofit, not a 501c3, a nonprofit. And along with making money, so charging customers what your value is, you've decided you want to take a percentage of what you've earned or take some of the time that you have, your free time, and serve the community. So what a lot of social enterprises do is say you're doing tutoring, or you have a tutoring company, you're serving clients who are able to pay $50 an hour to get their child tutored. Now, you know that there are other people in your community who need tutoring, other kids in your community that need tutoring, but their parents can't afford to pay $50 an hour. So you'll set up a separate program, which will be your social enterprise arm, that you can now provide some of those services, maybe in a group setting, to kids who need tutoring in math, maybe through grades 4 through 5 or 4 through 6, or kids who need to prepare for their SATs, but they can't afford to get a private tutor or pay for other SAT classes. And you will subsidize that portion of your business, which is the social and enterprise aspect of your business, so that these kids can get the services that they want. That is just one model. There's so many different models that can be adapted to social enterprises, like the buy one, give one Warby Parker does that. You buy one pair of glasses, they donate a pair, or the equivalent, the financial equivalent of a pair of glasses to a nonprofit organization who can provide eyewear to people in disenfranchised communities who cannot afford to get glasses or contacts or whatever it is, or get eye exams, whatever it is that they need for their eyes. That's what they do. So that's another business model. Another business model that social enterprise tend to adapt is workforce development. And so, helping people who are transitioning, whether it's from prison or domestic violence situations or substance abuse situations, to transition into back into the workforce through training, getting the proper education that they need, certification, whatever it is that they need. That's what they do. So there are like a variety of different types of models that can be used to build a social enterprise or become a social entrepreneur. Why would you want to become like I talked about a little earlier, why would you want to become a social enterprise or social entrepreneur versus becoming a nonprofit? That's where the grants reside, right? Everybody knows about grants, everybody wants grants, and a lot of people gravitate towards nonprofits because they think that as soon as you get that 501c3 tax exempt status, grants are going to come raining down from the sky. But that is not the case, right? So when you become a nonprofit organization, you may have put all the money up front, do all the paperwork to start it, but you don't own it, right? Nonprofits are publicly owned entities. So even though you started a nonprofit, you can't run around saying, oh, I own a nonprofit, because really and truly, you don't. It is owned by the community. So the board of directors is the one who makes the decisions as to how the nonprofit is run. And the board of directors at any point in time can decide that you no longer fit the model or that the mission is trying to uphold, and they can ask you to leave. They can literally fire you. So again, you have to think about what it is that you want. If you're somebody who wants to be in control, you want to be able to make decisions, you want to be able to do things on your own, you want to have that autonomy, then the nonprofit setting is not for you. If you are looking to have that autonomy, then you would want to go some place like a social enterprise. Because I know a lot of people tell me I have been ordained by God to help the community do X, Y, Z. And that is great, but you have to find the correct medium to deliver those services to the community. Because if you choose a nonprofit and that is not truly what you want, but you just thought you were going to start it, you were going to get tons of grants, which again is not true, because you have to establish a pattern of trust before grantors are willing to give you their money. And you get into it and you're miserable, you're really going to wish that you took the time to assess which one is best for you.
Mm.
So, um, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna hop back in here because this is a lot of the conversation, that we've had, that there's all these myths and misconceptions that people have about nonprofit organizations. And I think when you and I were talking, you said the first question you ask somebody is, what's your dream for your life? Like, what kind of
Yeah.
a lifestyle do you want to have? And usually that answers the question right there. Like somebody we were talking to was like, I want to be like on the beach. And you were like, yeah, then
Yeah.
you don't want a nonprofit. So clearly people have a misconception about how the grants are going to come in, but that notion that you don't actually own the nonprofit, I don't think a lot of people understand that as well. And I really appreciate you giving some different models for social enterprise. You've also talked about social entrepreneurship, so can you say, like, how does social entrepreneurship differ from a social enterprise?
Sure. So a social entrepreneur is someone who has an existing business, and then they decide, hey, I see a lot of people coming to me and they need my services, but they can't afford to purchase my services.
Hmm.
can I develop a program or can I develop an arm of my organization where I can actually subsidize those services? Or can I join forces with a nonprofit organization that has a similar mission to what I'm doing and develop a program with them and provide those services through that nonprofit organization? That would be a social entrepreneur, right? And that can be done. There are different models in how to become a social entrepreneur as well. It's not just, oh, I'm going to give 10% of everything that I make to a nonprofit, or I'm going to give 10% to subsidize. There, it has to be integrated into your business.
Yeah.
Now, a social enterprise is a business that is set up for the sole purpose of solving an issue within the community. So that is the reason why the business was set up. The business was not set up for me to be a consultant and do whatever. It would be for me to solve a specific problem, not the problem is being solved around my business. If that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
So last week we had on the show Jordan Crooms. He and his wife started a company called the Little Soy Candle
Mhm.
Company, and very soon after they decided that they wanted to start raising funds for I can't think, it's nephrotic syndrome. Their daughter has this, and
Mhm.
it's not a very common syndrome. So they originally said that they were going to donate 20% of profits, and then they realized, well, it's going to take us a while to be profitable. So then they changed it to 10% of sales that they were going
Right.
to donate. So that's an example of a social entrepreneur, not a social enterprise, because they started to sell candles,
Mhm.
not for the nephrotic syndrome. It came
Yeah.
very soon after they started. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's really helpful for me to make the distinction.
Right. And most social enterprises, like people who are really so serious about starting social enterprises, they tend to adopt the business entity, which a lot of people don't know about. Instead of becoming LLCs, they become L3Cs, which are low income liability companies, or they
Okay.
become benefit corps.
Okay. Wonderful. So, question for you. All these
Mhm.
people out there that didn't know all this stuff, that
Mhm.
already formed a nonprofit organization, what's your advice for them?
Well, nonprofits can become social enterprises as well.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. So they
so
should call you for help on how to make that transition.
nonprofits can become social enterprises as well. So nonprofits can own for-profit companies.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Huh.
Nonprofits can own for-profit companies, so they can have a for-profit that is a subsidiary of the nonprofit, or the person who has started as the founder of a nonprofit organization can then branch off and start their own for-profit and then divert some of that funds into the nonprofit organization.
Okay.
So, but I do want to make sure that I say when the nonprofit owns a subsidiary company that's a for-profit, only the for-profit should feed the nonprofit. The nonprofit should never be feeding the for-profit.
Okay, that makes
That's
sense.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
one of the other things that we talked about on one of the times you were at the networking thing was I was mentioning to you that a friend of mine who had come from the world of business
Mhm.
got connected to a young guy from the world of wrestling, and his team had lost all of their funding.
Mhm.
So that my friend started helping them to raise funds, and they realized they needed a place to put them, and so he stumbled into this, he would call it a hornet's nest, and he was like, you cannot believe the number of nonprofit organizations that exist in the state of Connecticut. And he was aghast that this is not the kind of thing that would ever happen in the business world, and
Right.
that people don't do any due diligence to find
No.
out what exists already, and is there a way that I can either provide support to them, work with them, partner with them, rather than creating my own nonprofit organization. Because what that does ultimately is dilute the funds going to the community, because you need all your funds to get started. And
Yep.
that money, if all that money went to an already existing nonprofit organization, so much more of it would go to the community. So I just wonder, like, what's your thoughts and on all that?
Well, my thoughts always get me like people want
Well, share them anyway.
You know, like, so, but I said it on a conference that I did yesterday as well. I think people need to stop starting nonprofits.
You think what?
People need to stop starting nonprofits.
Right. Yeah.
Right? There are way too many nonprofits. And I know exactly what you're talking about because I looked at the list for Connecticut, I think it was last year, and I was like, oh my God, there are so many nonprofits in the state. And I think when it comes to nonprofits, I think California has the most, then New York, or California and New York are almost tied. And then I think Connecticut is like number 5 or number 6 or something like
What?
that.
And
So
we're
they're like really, yes, they're like
wow,
high up
that's
on the
crazy.
list of nonprofits. And hear me out before you get in your feelings about what I'm about to say. The reason why I say people really need to stop starting nonprofit organizations is not because I don't believe in nonprofit organizations or that nonprofit organizations don't have their place in society. Nonprofit organizations are excellent tools for helping the underserved population in our society. But if you're starting nonprofit, and which is what I find happens very often, is that people are starting nonprofit organizations again because they think grants are going to rain down from the sky, right? They're starting nonprofit organizations and they think that they're going to get the 501c3, and bam, everybody's just going to give them money because they're a nonprofit, and everybody just wants a tax write-off. I give money to organizations all the time that I don't get a tax write-off. I'm not looking for a tax write-off. I do because I believe in the organization and I really want to help. Nobody's giving you money if you don't have systems and processes in place, you don't have products and services in place, and you can't show me what you're doing. You have to be able to show your impact. So that is why I say that there. And then when you talk about doing due diligence in any business that you're starting, nonprofit, social enterprise, for-profit business, you need to do market research, right? You need to find out who's out there already doing what you're doing. Market research and competitive analysis. Who's doing what you're doing? You want to make sure that when you're entering the marketplace, you're entering the marketplace uniquely. You don't want to duplicate what someone else is doing. If you come out here looking like, let's say McDonald's, you got the yellow arches and everything, what are you doing to yourself? You may think that you're going to get all of the money because everybody's going to think that you're a nonprofit, you're McDonald's, but they're not. They're going to realize that you're just a copy of the original and go to the original. Come out, find where the gaps are in the marketplace and fill those gaps. Talk to the nonprofit organizations that are doing something that you want to do and build programs and services through that organization. I tell my mastermind groups all the time, we got to put our egos down and start collaborating. And that's the problem. We have so much ego. We want to own things so bad. I did this. It belongs to me. It's mine. If you truly want to help the community, listen to the words I'm saying. There are a lot of ways to help the community without ownership and being the face of everything. Everybody seems to want to be famous. There's a reason that we get on the camera, that I'm here today. It's not because I want to be famous. It's because I want to share the knowledge that I have with you so you can do better and help your community.
Right. Yeah, that makes me think of the quote that I love. There is no limit to the amount of good that we can do if we don't care who gets the credit.
Exactly.
So if you're all worried about like getting your name on it, I think, some of it is that, but my guess is a lot of people just don't know that these social enterprises exist. They think that the nonprofit is the only, model that exists. But let me ask you this. What would you say would be the right circumstances under which you would go, yes, you should probably open a nonprofit now? What do you think?
The right circumstances for me would be someone who has a clear vision and the time to build it and build it correctly. Someone who has the connections, who is well networked in their community and can make those collaborations. And they're not afraid of collaboration. So still, even if it's unique, you still have got to collaborate with the rest of the nonprofits and for-profit businesses in your area. And that is somebody who I would say, okay, do you have a unique solution? Are you filling a gap that the other nonprofit organizations that do something similar or serve the same type of population that you serve, are you filling a gap that they're unable to serve? Or are the amount of people that they're serving, is it too much for their capacity and they don't have the capacity to grow? So yes, you need someone else to come in and pick up that slack. Those are the only ways right now, to me, that I would tell someone to go ahead and start a nonprofit. Like I said, there's so many nonprofits out here, and a lot of them are dormant nonprofits because they're not doing anything.
Mhm.
They're not
So
doing
I
it.
just want to remind people that are watching, you can go ahead and leave a comment, and I can, if you have a comment or a question for Tracy, go ahead and share that, and we'll address that. And that's true whether you're watching this live or you're watching a recording. Go ahead and leave a comment, and we'll get it to Tracy if you're watching the
Mhm.
recording. Okay, so I said that I had a question, and now I've forgotten what the
That's
question
okay, because I can make a comment while you're thinking of your
was. Go ahead.
question. I know I'm going to get the question. So, how do social enterprises support themselves? Well, one, you make money in your business, right? Because every business is supposed to make money, even nonprofits. Your businesses make money. That's what they do.
Mhm.
The second thing is that a lot of foundations are beginning to see the benefit of supporting social enterprises. So foundations are able to give grants to social enterprises as well, since we all like grants, right? 'Cause it's free money,
Mhm.
right?
Well,
um,
it's not free when you consider the labor you have to put in
that's
to
what I was
create
saying. That's why I like
it.
the free money.
Yeah,
So yes, their social enterprises, for-profit businesses, which social enterprises are, can get grants, and they foundations can also offer them low income loans, low income interest loans. So let's say a commercial loan is at 12%, they can offer you that loan at 3% or 2%. What that allows them to do is to get that money back. When they give grants, they're not getting that money back, right?
right,
But when
yeah.
they get that money back, then they're able to help more organizations like yours or more nonprofit organizations
Right.
with the monies that they're getting. And the loan terms are usually pretty reasonable, and they're extended enough so that you can afford to pay them back.
Mm.
And if you don't, it's not like the bank where they're going to come and run you down. It's part of their 5%, which would have lost anyway. But of course, they're expecting a return on their investment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So I can't remember what my question was, but I had two comments that I wanted to make. One was, I don't know if you know Takia Green, Divine Writing Solutions. I
Mhm.
follow her on Instagram, and one of the things that she does a really good job of is saying this is not what grants are for. Like, if you don't have any money at all, you don't write a grant to start an organization. You have to have an
Right.
already existing
Right.
organization to bring the money into,
Mhm.
and things like that. And I really
And
appreciate
talking about that.
how much she's
Yeah,
educated.
talking about that, I just had to tell someone yesterday, you also don't start nonprofits to solve your for-profit financial deficit.
Okay, people do that, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Okay. The other thing, thinking about the question that you ask people, which is, what do you want your lifestyle to be? And
Mhm.
they're like, I want to be on the beach. And you're like, you don't want to start a nonprofit. Like, all the people that I've known that have worked for nonprofits, and I have as well, it
Mhm.
is well known that you don't get paid the way you get paid out in the business world. And people think, well, I'm willing to kind of like take the cut and pay so that I can do good. And it sounds to me like these models, the social enterprise and social entrepreneurship, are saying, actually, no, you don't have to live in poverty yourself just to serve the community, right? And I
Exactly.
think we need to get rid of that mentality that
Yeah.
somehow making money negates the good work that you're doing in the world, which is bullshit, in my opinion.
It is.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Like, there's
It
nothing wrong
is.
with making not just a living wage, but
Mhm.
thriving financially and serving the community.
Yeah, I just spoke to some potential client today, and she told me that someone told her that if she charged anything for the services in her nonprofit, she would go to jail. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Wonder
The
what
misinformation is real.
Yeah, yeah, what fictional novel did she read
Yeah,
that from? Wow, that's
I
crazy.
I don't know. My slogan is the none in nonprofit does not mean no profit.
Right,
If
right.
you
Okay.
remember
And I
that,
think
you'll
that's what a lot of people think. Yeah, yeah.
just
So I mean, I don't even know if you can answer this question, but what's your understanding of where all this misinformation comes from?
we've been trying to figure that out for years. I just think I seriously think it comes from a place of desperation, right? Everybody is looking to make a quick buck. And for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, there have been nonprofit leaders who have mismanaged funds and have done some very salacious things with the monies that they received, besides doing what their mission was, which
Mhm,
was to help the community. So I think a lot of people, and some people have gotten away with it, right?
mhm.
So those people who have gotten away with it, if you've gotten away with it, then you're going to pass on your bad practices to someone else and someone else. And I think it just caught fire. And
Mm,
this is how we are where we are today in
mm,
talking about
mm,
nonprofits and the like where it does not exist.
mm,
So yeah.
mm. Well, I think that I don't have any other questions. So is there more that you want to share that you haven't had an opportunity to share yet?
No, not really. I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
just kind of want to tell people, like, if you are thinking, if you want to help the community, help the community. You
right.
don't have to start a nonprofit organization to help the community. You don't have to start a social enterprise to help the community. You can volunteer, right?
Right.
A
Yeah.
lot of nonprofits need volunteers. Go
Yeah.
out and volunteer and
Right.
help the community that way.
Right. Precisely. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Because their organization already exists. They're already
Mhm.
paying for the facilities and the salaries of the people and all that stuff.
Yep.
Just go volunteer for them.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we have all these different ways to contact you on this screen here. What's your favorite way to connect with people?
I like LinkedIn.
Okay.
I will quicker answer you if you contacted me on LinkedIn versus Facebook or Instagram.
Hmm.
I just think it's a little bit more professional site, and I can kind of look through your resume and kind of see who you are. So I really like LinkedIn.
Okay, fantastic. So if you want to connect with Tracy, she consults around all these kinds of issues. So
Yes.
if you have oh, my battery's running low. I got to plug in here. I didn't realize it
Uh-oh.
wasn't plugged in. So okay, there we go. We're all set. Sorry about that, everybody. Um, so if somebody wants to have a consultation with you, do you do any kind of like 20-minute free consultation or 30-minute free consultation or something? Or
Unfortunately, no.
okay,
And that is a practice that I learned
good
throughout
for
my,
you.
yeah,
Right.
that is a practice I learned hard
Hmm.
from being a consultant for so many years. Like I said, I've been in this game for like 20 plus years. Is
Yeah,
that when I do free consultations, people just book.
yeah,
Your calendar is full all the time and it never amounts to anything. So
right.
I have a 50-minute discovery session. It's $25.
Okay,
And most of the people who are willing to pay that $25 will close
yeah.
as clients.
Right. And that is an incredibly reasonable price. I mean,
Yeah.
that's incredibly reasonable, but you're right. It is funny how when people get stuff for free, they don't value it. It's really sad, but that's the truth. I was a program coordinator for urban education programs that were funded by the USDOE, so we weren't allowed to charge things, but
Mhm,
we had a free summer program on Yale campus for 2 weeks for kids in the
mhm,
dorms. Like,
mhm.
and we charged, I don't remember, I think it was $200. What we ended up doing with the money was putting it into a scholarship fund for the kids because we can't literally take in money.
Right,
Like, the first year we did it, how many kids didn't show up? The parents didn't come to the orientation meetings and all that. And we're like, we can't do it.
right. No skin in the game.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
no skin in the
Okay.
game.
Well,
Yeah.
Tracy, this was fantastic,
Thank
incredibly
you.
valuable. I am certain that there are plenty of people who are like in total shock about some of the things
Yeah.
that you're saying, which is why we had you on here. I want to thank you so much. What I'd like to do is actually take you off the screen for a minute, but if you'll stick around for a moment while I close
Sure.
out, and then, you and I can chat for just a second. But thanks again,
Okay.
Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hi. Bye, everybody.
All righty, great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today on the Connection Corner. And thank you again to Tracy. What a load of valuable information that she gave us. I do want to remind you, if you're watching the recording, you can go ahead and leave comments. We will get them to Tracy. I also want to remind you that this coming Tuesday at 8:30, as with every Tuesday, Digital Media Sync with Julia Gambale will be on the air. And next Thursday on this show at 4 p.m., we're going to have Lachlan Arts of 2030 or Bust. And his organization is dedicated to getting the everyday person to understand ways they can make just the simplest little changes in their lives so we can really turn the climate problems around by 2030. And then on Monday, March 8th, we will be having Caroline from Collab on Pivot Talk, who will be talking about, I'm trying to think of the exact terminology that we're using, but because I'm on air, I'm losing my words. It's entrepreneurship that's accessible. There you go. Accessible to all different kinds of people, and the ways in which Collab itself has had to pivot during the quarantine to meet the needs of the community. And I want to thank you again. Have a great day. Goodbye, everybody.